I walked in and saw her on the couch with him. His uniform still dirty from the city sewer job, her laugh echoing like she didn't care who heard. That was the moment I stopped being the man she thought she could humiliate forever. It was a Wednesday. I remember because I always left work early on Wednesdays to surprise her with lunch. Nothing fancy, just Thai takeout from her favorite place. She used to say Wednesdays were the hardest for her, some kind of midweek slump. So I made it a tradition. I'd come in around 12:30, bags in hand, and she'd be on the couch in her hoodie, pretending she hadn't just rolled out of bed. That day, I opened the door and heard laughter before I even stepped inside. At first, I thought it was the TV, maybe a sitcom, but the voice was too real, too close. I stepped in quietly, out of habit, and turned the corner into the living room. She was straddling him, not even trying to hide it. One leg on each side of a man whose boots were still caked in dried mud. His neon orange work vest was tossed on our coffee table, right where I kept our engagement photo in a frame. His shirt said, Public Sanitation Services, District 9. I stared at it for a second, because I couldn't believe that's what it actually said. The smell hit me next, sweat, engine grease, and something else I couldn't place. Something sour. They didn't notice me right away. She was laughing. High, sharp, breathless. The kind of laugh she used to give me when I'd tickle her after a movie. Now it was his. I must have dropped the food. I don't remember letting go of it. But there it was on the floor, pad thai leaking through the plastic. That's when she turned. Her smile froze. Oh, she said. Not I'm sorry. Not this isn't what it looks like. Just, oh. The guy stood up fast and wiped his hands on his pants like I was going to ask him for a handshake. I didn't move. Couldn't. She crossed her arms like I had done something wrong. You weren't supposed to be home yet, she said. I leave early on Wednesdays. I replied, my voice hollow. Yeah, well, she said, glancing at the guy. Plans change. I looked at him again. He didn't meet my eyes. He backed toward the hallway, and she waved him off like he was a pizza delivery guy who overstayed his welcome. You can go. I'll talk to him, she said. And he left. Just like that. Past me. Didn't even say a word. I don't know what was worse, watching him leave or watching her not care that I saw any of it. When the door closed behind him, she turned back to me and laughed. That's what you get for being so trusting, she said. Honestly, it's pathetic. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, trying to understand how the person I planned to marry could look me in the eyes after what I saw, and smile like it was a joke. She walked past me to the kitchen, humming, like it was just another Wednesday. But in my chest, something broke. Something permanent. She poured herself a glass of orange juice. Not like a woman who just got caught. Like someone waking up from a nap, stretching, and going about her day. I stood in the living room, still frozen. Her juice sloshed a little as she leaned on the counter and looked at me with that half smile she used when she wanted to look innocent but smug. You gonna say anything, or just stand there like a statue? She asked. I saw you, I finally said. With my own eyes. She shrugged. You sure took your time figuring it out. That's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. Not even close. She didn't feel guilty. She felt proud. Like she'd pulled one over on me for months, and now she could finally laugh about it. Who is he? I asked, though I didn't know why. Maybe I needed to hear her say it out loud. She tilted her head. Ricky. Works sanitation for the city. Been cleaning out people's messes for 11 years. Unlike you. I swallowed hard. You're sleeping with a guy who unclogs toilets for a living? Better than sleeping next to a man who can't grow a backbone, she said, and sipped her juice like it was wine. I should have walked out right then. I should have slammed the door and never looked back. But I didn't. Because part of me still wanted to fix it. Still believed this was salvageable. That maybe she was just angry. Maybe this was just revenge for something she never told me I did. I still love you, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. She laughed. A full, cruel laugh. That's your problem. Always loving people who don't deserve it. You don't even see how weak that makes you. I was willing to forgive you, I said, stepping closer. I would have forgiven you if you just told me the truth. She stepped forward too, right up to my face. And that's why I'll never respect you. I flinched. Do you know how boring you are? She hissed. Always home on time. Always predictable. You think loyalty is attractive? It's not. It's pathetic. Every word chipped away at what little pride I had left. She wanted to hurt me, and she was good at it. She had rehearsed this, maybe for weeks, maybe for months. And now she was performing it like a one-woman play. You just stood there like an idiot, holding Thai food, like you were the delivery guy. That's what you are now. A delivery boy. For a woman who stopped wanting you a year ago. The worst part? I didn't even get angry. I wanted her to stop. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. Every word. She walked to the hallway, turned, and said one more thing before going upstairs. You want to fix this? Then grow a pair. Until then, Ricky's got a better use for my time. And she was gone. I sat down on the couch, where they had just been. The cushions were still warm. I looked at the spilled food. The empty hallway. I had been willing to forgive her. But now, I knew, I couldn't come back from this. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was crying. That part of me had burned out somewhere between the couch and the orange juice. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. Her phone was upstairs, probably charging next to our bed, if she even bothered to sleep alone. Around 3 a.m., I opened my laptop. I started with her email. I knew her password. She never changed it, same one she used for everything. The name of the street she grew up on and her high school graduation year. She once mocked me for using a password manager. What? You think you're some kind of hacker? She joked. No, but apparently, I didn't need to be. Her inbox was a mess. Emails from online stores, newsletters, spam. But I filtered by name, Ricky. Found 4. The subject lines told me more than I needed to know. Meet me behind the lot, same spot. Tell him you're at your sister's. I'll bring the drinks. And this one, you looked amazing in those boots. I'll bring the wrench next time, winky face. She called me boring. But this was what thrilled her. A man who cleaned human waste for a living, who called himself King of the Drain in one of the emails. It wasn't about him. It was about me. She wanted to feel like she was above me. That's why she picked the lowest man she could find, to make me feel even lower. I closed the emails. Next, I went to our bank account. Joint, of course. I handled the bills. She handled the shopping. There were hundreds of charges over the past few months. But not for groceries. Not for anything I remembered us using. Bars, motels, takeout. None of it made sense until I matched the timestamps with the emails. She was spending our money to spoil him. To feed him. To buy herself lingerie I never even saw. I started screen recording everything. Every transaction, every email. I saved it in a folder labeled just in case. At 5 a.m., I made coffee and wrote myself a checklist. 1. Cancel all joint credit cards. 2. Freeze shared savings account. 3. Redirect my paycheck to a new bank. 4. Start documenting everything. 5. Talk to a lawyer, but not my usual one. Someone who doesn't know her. I needed information. Leverage. Proof. Because I wasn't just going to walk away. That's what she expected. No. I wanted her to feel it. To lose things slowly. Publicly. If she was going to treat me like a fool, I'd become the kind of fool who turns the lights off while the ship is still sailing, and leaves her to crash it herself. I called out sick from work that day. When she came downstairs around 9 a.m., wearing one of my shirts like she hadn't gutted me the night before, I handed her a cup of coffee. She looked surprised. No silent treatment. I smiled. Why would I be upset? You said it yourself. I'm too weak to care. She narrowed her eyes, but didn't ask more. That's the thing about people like her. They don't notice when the rope starts tightening. Not until they can't breathe. A week later, I hit her with the first move. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it changed everything. I waited for her to leave the house. She had a girls' brunch that Sunday, which I knew meant she was meeting Ricky again. She always wore too much perfume on those days, like she was trying to drown herself in something that didn't smell like guilt. As soon as her car pulled away, I got to work. First stop, our closet. I removed every valuable thing I had ever bought her. Designer bags, jewelry, the watch I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. She never paid for any of it. I kept the receipts. Every item was under my name. I packed it all into a box and took it straight to a safety deposit box I had opened 2 days prior under my new solo account. That same day, I canceled the insurance policies on her belongings. Next, I logged into our shared Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, every subscription. I changed all the passwords and set up new profiles without her name on them. It was petty, sure, but strategic. I wasn't just deleting her access. I was showing her she didn't live in our world anymore. She lived in mine, and I was changing the locks. By the time she came back, hair messy, lipstick smudged, and smile crooked like she thought she had pulled one over on me, I was already sitting on the couch with my laptop open. Hey, she said, kicking off her shoes. Still brooding. No, I said, clicking on a PDF and turning the screen toward her. Just updating our financial records. For the lawyer. She froze. What lawyer? I didn't flinch. The one drawing up the separation agreement. She laughed. You're not serious. I am. And by the way, those credit cards you've been using? They're all deactivated. Hope Ricky likes diners that accept cash. Her expression cracked, just a little. She tried to hide it by walking past me, but I saw the twitch in her jaw. I don't need your money, she said. That's good, I replied, because you're not getting it. She spun back around. We have shared assets. Not anymore. I've already moved my paycheck. Close the joint savings. You can keep the change in the emergency fund. You'll need it. She stared at me. She wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't beg. The one who didn't break. You're bluffing. I handed her a printed bank statement. Call the bank if you want. She didn't take the paper. Just looked at me with a strange mix of confusion and recognition, like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. You're serious. As a heart attack. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. She didn't say a word. Just locked herself in the guest room and stayed there. I lay awake, not from pain this time, but from the rush. She thought I was predictable. Safe. Weak. She was wrong. And this was just the beginning. I should have known she wouldn't take it lying down. It started subtle. The first sign was a call from HR at my job. They wanted to confirm some concerns raised anonymously. Concerns about me supposedly misusing company funds for personal gain. I laughed it off, at first. I hadn't done anything wrong. But the tone in my boss's voice told me this wasn't just a formality. Someone had made it sound serious. Professional. Coordinated. I spent the entire next day reviewing every report, every line item I'd submitted in the past 6 months. Clean. Spotless. Still, the meeting wasn't optional. I was to provide written clarification and remain cooperative during an internal review. It didn't take long to connect the dots. She was trying to get me fired. I confronted her that night, catching her in the hallway as she came out of the bathroom with her silk robe on like none of this was happening. You talked to my company. She didn't even blink. You'll have to be more specific. Don't play dumb. You filed a complaint about me. You're trying to ruin my name at work. She smirked, leaned against the wall, and said, I just said I had concerns. If there's nothing to hide, why so scared? It was a masterstroke. If I accused her, I looked paranoid. If I ignored it, I might lose my job. But she wasn't done. 2 days later, I got served. A temporary restraining order. She claimed I'd been acting erratic, that I'd threatened to destroy her belongings, and this one cut deep, that I had a history of emotional instability. All lies. But in black and white, filed at the courthouse, they looked real enough for a judge to sign off. I wasn't removed from the house, but the order barred me from entering her personal space, which apparently now included the kitchen and the guest room. I couldn't touch any of her things. Couldn't speak to her unless it was through a lawyer. It was genius. Brutal, but genius. She was boxing me in, legally, isolating me in my own home. If I so much as knocked on her door without permission, she could call the cops and claim I violated the order. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the papers, and realized she had flipped the board on me. This wasn't a war of heartbreak anymore. This was tactical, legal, financial. She wanted to erase me, not just from her life, but from every place I had stability. And the worst part? I underestimated her. I thought she was reckless, emotional, self-absorbed. But now I saw the truth. She was cold, strategic. She'd been preparing this while I was still picking up the pieces. She had the upper hand now. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Because if she wanted to play this smart, I'd play smarter. The key to winning wasn't anger. It was patience. While she walked around the house like a queen in exile, acting like she'd exiled me, I was watching, learning, timing every move. The restraining order gave her a false sense of safety. She thought I was cornered. But legally, it didn't stop me from investigating, documenting, or preparing my case. So that's what I did. I hired a private investigator. Not one of those shady guys who sits in a car eating fast food. This one was sharp, licensed, and connected. He had access to public records, traffic cams, and, most importantly, a quiet way of digging into people's digital footprints. Within 3 weeks, I had a folder. Inside were time-stamped photos of her and Ricky, coming and going from cheap motels, lunch dates on my dime, a car rental receipt in her name, with the rental returned in a different city on the same weekend she claimed to be at her cousin's baby shower. I also had bank records from an old joint account she forgot to close. One she used to pay for things she didn't want me to notice. It showed transactions for a burner phone, Uber rides, and, get this, flowers delivered to Ricky's workplace. Sewer department. I could almost smell the roses through the paperwork. But the crown jewel? A voice recording. She'd left her Bluetooth speaker connected to her phone by accident while she was in the bathroom. I was working quietly on the living room computer when I heard it. A voicemail. From him. Hey babe. Last night was wild. I can't believe you wore that thing in the car. My back still hurts. Call me after Loser Boy goes to sleep. Loser Boy. I transferred the voicemail onto a USB and added it to the folder. Then, I called my lawyer. Not the one she knew. This one was from another county, specialized in strategic divorce and protective order reversals. We met. I laid everything out. She flipped through the folder slowly, then looked at me and said one word. Brutal. Then she smiled. Over the next 2 weeks, we filed a counter-motion against the restraining order, citing fabricated claims and retaliatory abuse. My lawyer made sure the judge reviewing the case had zero affiliation with hers. Then we filed for divorce, on the grounds of adultery, fraud, and emotional distress, with all evidence attached. We also included a financial motion to freeze assets until the courts sorted ownership, based on demonstrated efforts to misappropriate marital funds. The day the documents were served, I stayed home. She came in from grocery shopping, threw her keys on the table, and saw the envelope on the counter. Her name on it. She opened it. Silence. Then, you've got to be kidding me. I leaned in the doorway. No, I said calmly. I'm done being the fool. She flipped through the pages, face pale. Her hands trembled slightly. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did. Her eyes locked on mine, and for the first time since all this began, I saw fear. Real fear. Because now she knew, I'd caught up. And I wasn't chasing her anymore. I was leading. I thought she'd fold. After getting served the divorce papers, after reading the transcript of her own boyfriend calling me loser boy, after seeing the time-stamped motel photos, I thought that was checkmate. But I underestimated how deep her pride ran. The very next morning, I woke up to the sound of her on the phone. Calm, composed, fake sweetness dripping from every word. Yes, that's right, she said. I'm happy to come in. I just want to protect myself and make sure I'm heard before he manipulates anything. Manipulates? I stayed quiet and listened. She was setting up a meeting with a social worker. By the time I walked into the kitchen, she was already dressed, too dressed. Clean blazer, tidy makeup, hair curled just enough to look casual. Her laptop sat open, and an empty mug sat beside it with a tea bag label still hanging off the rim. She looked at me and smiled. The smile was back. Big day, she said cheerfully. What are you doing? I asked, though I already knew. Just being proactive. You know, women have to look out for themselves these days. Especially when they've been living with someone so unstable. That word hit like a punch to the throat. You're really going to lie to a court officer? She shrugged. Well, I mean, I do feel unsafe. You've been very erratic lately. Unpredictable. Obsessed. I took a step closer, careful not to touch her. You're manufacturing evidence. No, she said. I'm reframing the truth. Which, let's be honest, is what you've been doing too. That day, she filed a formal statement. Claimed I had emotional outbursts, manipulative behavior, and potential for financial abuse. She used vague phrases, never anything that could be directly disproven, just enough to paint me as the aggressor. I got the call from my lawyer that night. She's playing smart, she said, trying to get ahead of your petition. She's going for primary residence, too. With that kind of language, she's setting you up as unstable, which can hurt your credibility. I stared at the wall. We didn't even have kids. But that didn't matter. She was laying groundwork to claim the house, the furniture, my reputation. I asked my lawyer what my next move was. She sighed. You've still got the stronger case. The facts are on your side. But if she starts pulling witnesses or character statements, we'll need to prepare. Witnesses? That's when it hit me. I checked social media, hers and mine. I wasn't tagged in any of her posts anymore. Friends we used to share were suddenly liking her cryptic, dramatic updates. I'm tired of being silent. Some people wear masks for years. Time to put myself first. I looked at our mutuals. My name wasn't showing up in any comments. No tags. No mentions. She was poisoning the well. She couldn't win legally, So she was coming for the court of public opinion. And worse, she was good at it. By the end of that week, I got word from my supervisor. We're just reviewing a few concerns raised by a third party, he said. There it was again. A third party. She was trying to destroy me piece by piece, career, name, identity. I thought she was dangerous when she was cheating, but she was far more dangerous once she was cornered. She thought she could smear me with rumors, whispers, hints of instability. But there's something about liars, they eventually start recycling the same lies. And people start to notice. I spent the next week building not just my defense, but my counteroffensive. First, I tracked down 2 mutual friends. Real ones. The kind who had stayed neutral when things exploded. One of them, Matt, worked in IT. I asked him for a favor. Nothing illegal. Just an analysis of the burner email she'd used to send anonymous tips to my job. He found a match. Same recovery email tied to her old gym membership. Same device ID. Next, I contacted a professional reputation management firm. I told them everything. They coached me on what to say publicly, how to reclaim the narrative without sounding bitter or vengeful. I posted a simple message on my private page. Sometimes people break you and call it healing. I won't say much now, but I have faith the truth will always outlive a lie. It went viral in our circle. Dozens of people messaged me privately. Some who had once believed her story now asked what was really going on. But the game changer? The landlord. See, the house we lived in? Technically mine, under my name, bought before we ever got engaged. But the land? A long-term lease. And that lease had a clause. Violation of peace, criminal accusations, even temporary restraining orders, triggered a review. The leaseholder? My uncle, who liked her about as much as a root canal. I explained the situation to him in person. I want to invoke the clause, I said. He didn't even blink. I'll start the paperwork tonight. Within 72 hours, she received a letter. Official. Cold. Effective. Due to multiple disruptive incidents and reported legal filings involving the property, the leaseholder was formally requesting a transition of occupancy. In plain terms, she had 30 days to vacate. She stormed into the living room, shaking the paper in her hand like it was on fire. You can't do this. I didn't, I said. The property owner did. You know, the man you screamed at during Christmas 2 years ago because he brought store-bought pie. You orchestrated this, she hissed. No, I said, you did. When you brought cops into this house for a fake restraining order. Her confidence cracked. I saw it, the twitch in her mouth, the way she stepped back. Where am I supposed to go? Try Ricky. I hear he's got a thing for people with no stability and a lot of nerve. She turned to walk away, then stopped. This isn't over. I smiled. You're right. It's just getting fun. That week, the judge reviewed my petition to dissolve the restraining order. With the evidence from the PI, the emails, and her burner account tied directly to her, the order was tossed. Completely reversed. In fact, the court reprimanded her for abuse of process and warned her against any further unfounded claims. Now I had the house, the legal advantage, the evidence, the momentum. She wanted war? Now I was the general. 2 months later, I walked into court expecting to win. I had the documents, the PI report, the reversed restraining order, testimonies, even screenshots of her trying to leak my salary and work history to gossip blogs under fake profiles. But the judge didn't care. He ruled that since she had no formal income and no proven support system, she was entitled to temporary alimony and could claim half the furniture and shared assets. Her legal team argued she'd given up her career for our relationship. They painted her as a woman betrayed and emotionally destabilized, gaslighting turned into performance art. It worked. The judge awarded her 3 months spousal support, half of our joint remaining savings, and the right to collect her belongings at a scheduled time without interference. She smiled at me the entire time the verdict was being read. She even winked. I felt my jaw tighten so hard it hurt. The lawyer patted my shoulder as we left the courtroom and said, "It's a loss, but it's not the loss." I didn't speak the entire ride home. She, meanwhile, was gloating, posting selfies in the courthouse bathroom mirror with captions like, "Peace takes courage." And lawyers. By that Friday, she was gone. Took the couch, one of the TVs, 2 of the bedroom dressers, and for some reason, the blender. Not the base, just the pitcher. I still don't know if that was spite or stupidity, but I let her have it all. Because while she was busy redecorating her small rental apartment and announcing her victory online, I was holding one last card. Remember that burner phone she used to coordinate with Ricky? The one linked to the florist deliveries, the Uber rides, and the secret emails? My PI found more than just bank records. He found backups. She had synced the phone to a cloud account under her sister's old email. And in that cloud? Everything. Messages, photos, voicemails, videos. Some of them intimate. One clip, dated 2 months before our legal separation, showed her and Ricky inside my car. She was in the passenger seat, laughing, smoking, talking trash about me. He still thinks we're going to therapy, she said in the video, blowing smoke out the window. He cried in the kitchen last week because I didn't say, "I love you" back. I almost lost it. Ricky laughed and said, "You're savage." She smiled. He deserves it. The file was timestamped, location tagged, and traced back to her account. That's what I held in my hands now. A career-killing, reputation-burning, legally relevant folder of betrayal. One that proved she manipulated therapy sessions, faked mental distress, and mocked me while publicly playing the victim. I met with my lawyer. We drafted an affidavit attaching the files as supplemental evidence should any further motions arise. I didn't use it yet, but I had it. Legally obtained, digitally signed, ready to deploy. And then it happened. A knock on the door. I opened it, expecting mail or maybe a neighbor. But there she was, mascara smeared, knees trembling. And then she dropped to the ground, hands clasped, begging. "I know you have something," she said. "Please, don't release it. I'll do anything. Just don't ruin me." I stared at her, shaking. For months, I wanted this. I imagined this moment in every flavor. And yet, it didn't feel like I thought it would. She was broken, really broken, and I had the power to finish the job. She stayed on her knees for over a minute. Not out of drama, not performance. She was shaking, like her body finally understood the weight of what she'd built, and now feared it collapsing. "I'll sign anything," she said. "I'll forfeit the alimony. I'll return everything I took. Please, just don't leak it. Don't destroy me." The irony nearly choked me. For months, I begged for honesty, for some decency, for her to look me in the eye and say something real. She chose humiliation, gaslighting, revenge. Now she was at my feet, whispering apologies between sobs. I didn't speak right away. I walked past her and poured a glass of water, not for her, but for me. My hands trembled as I raised it to my lips. I had one. Everything. The courts could keep their judgments. Public sympathy could shift wherever it liked. But I had something none of them controlled, her confession, her fear, and the undeniable truth of what she'd done. And still, I didn't press send, because I thought about the version of myself from 6 months ago. The man who came home with Thai food. The man who said, "I still love you," to someone who already belonged to someone else. That man didn't get justice. He got something better. He got out. She cried harder when I didn't say anything. I think silence scared her more than threats. Finally, I spoke. "You lied to your therapist, to my job, to your friends. You turned me into a villain so you could pretend to be a survivor." She didn't answer. "You manipulated courts, abused legal protections, slept with a man who works in a job he clearly hates just to feel like you had power over someone." Still nothing. "You broke me," I said, stepping forward. "But you also did something else." She looked up, eyes wide. "You made me rebuild." I opened a drawer, pulled out a sheet of paper, set it on the table. It was a settlement agreement, revised, simplified. No alimony, no property claims, no public exposure, just clean separation, quiet dignity. My terms. "If you sign this," I said, "it's over. All of it. You walk away. No headlines. No fallout." She stared at the page like it might explode. "You're not going to destroy me?" she whispered. "No," I said, "because I'm not you." She reached for the pen. Her hand shook so badly I thought she'd drop it. But she signed. Sloppy, crooked signature. But legal. I took the folder with all the dirt. Opened my safe. Slid it in. Locked it. She stood up slowly. I still read. She tried to speak, but I raised a hand. "Don't," I said. "Just go." She left. Quietly this time. No doors slamming. No last laugh. No smugness. Just the echo of footsteps fading. I stood alone in the hallway, listening to that silence. And for the first time in months, I felt peace. Not justice. Not revenge. Peace. I walked into the living room, looked at the empty spot where the couch used to be, and sat on the floor. I had given her something she never gave me. Mercy. And now I turn to you, the one hearing this story, and ask, what would you have done in my place?